In the topic of the human intrusion, we will be discussing about the plant domestication and agriculture. So what is meant by the plant domestication? प्लांट डोमेस्टिकेशन का मतलब ये है कि कैसे इंसान ने पौधों को जो कि जंगली थे वाइल्ड प्लांट्स उनको अपने रोज़मर्रा इस्तेमाल का हिस्सा बनाया और आहिस्ता आहिस्ता उसने उन पौधों को फसलों की सूरत में उगाना शुरू कर दिया और उससे अपनी ग़िज़ाई ज़रूरियात को पूरा करने लगा. सो द सक्सेस ऑफ होमो सेपियंस, दैट मीन्स द ह्यूमन, can be explained by including the high brain capacity, manual dexterity, and tool making and social organization. So, अगर हम इंसान की तरक्की का राज जानना चाहें तो उसमें उसकी ज़हनी काबिलियत, वो कैसे अपने दोनों हाथों से काम कर सकता है और कितने बेहतर तरीके से काम कर सकता है, जिसको हम अंग्रेज़ी में मैनुअल डेक्स्ट्रिटी कहते हैं. एंड देन देयर इज़ टूल मेकिंग एंड सोशल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. Their adaptability was another feature that enabled the survival of our species through the time of fluctuating climate. So the adaptability was the key thing that was the characteristic due to which the human beings were able to survive throughout our history. हमारी तारीख में इंसान हर मौसम के मुताबिक, हर जोग्राफिया, हर जगह के मुताबिक अपने आप को डाल लेता है. तो हमारी तारीख में जो भी चेंजेस आई, जो भी तब्दीलियां आई, इंसान ने अपने आप को उसके मुताबिक डाला. एंड नाउ वी हैव सर्वाइव्ड ड्यू टू दैट अडेप्टेबिलिटी. So there are alternative sources of foods available before the plants were being cultivated and domesticated. When prey animals become scarce, the humans readily turn to alternative sources of food. By about 164,000 years ago, human groups in South Africa resorted to marine habitats for their main food supply, harvesting shellfish and other intertidal organisms. When they didn't have much for the predation or hunting, then they resorted to some sea life, or they were diversifying their eating habits, or in there they were using the shellfish and other intertidal organisms. So उन्होंने समंदर में रहने वाले ऑर्गेनिजम्स, अगर वो किसी समंदर के करीब रहते थे या दरियाओं के करीब रहते थे, तो उन्होंने अपनी खुराक में उन जानवरों को भी शामिल कर लिया. So then there is a period of Middle East experimentation. By the end of last cold period, people in the Middle East were experimenting with a new technique to enhance their food supplies. And what were they doing? In the fertile region of Levant, Levant is the area which include the Israel, Syria, Turkey, Egypt, and all the regional countries in there. And they grew a number of annual grasses with the edible seeds, the ancestor of our wheat and barley. So they were growing some grasses, and their seeds of these grasses were edible. So you could eat those seeds of those grasses. The people occupying these regions at the time were hunter and gatherers of Upper Paleolithic, feeding on a rich variety of animals, including gazelles, bird, rodent, fish, and mollusks. And with that, they were growing some of those things as well, or the grasses. So some settlements have been discovered in Israel dating from about 23,000 years ago, and their hearts contain residues of charred dough made from the seeds of white barley, wheat, and other grass species. So they were starting to eat the wheat and barley and other grasses species and their seeds, and making the dough out of it, cooking on their hearths. हर्थ उस चूल्हे को कहते हैं जो कि किसी कमरे के अंदर मौजूद होता है. तो wherever they were living, they were using the fire to cook their food, and in the food these things were found. And it was then a simple step to retain some of the seeds from one season to the next and to select those strains that were richest in the edible grain. So wild barley, wheat, and other grasses, they were growing that, as we have discussed in the Levant region. So अगर वो उन फसलों को उगा रहे थे तो उनका काम ये था कि अब जब भी वो नए सीड या नए बीज अगली फसल के लिए जमा करते थे तो दे वुड सेव दोज सीड्स विच वर more better in size, and they would select the seeds for the better production, taste, or whatever the criteria they had. So नस्लों के बाद जब वो इसी तरह से सिलेक्शन करते गए तो दे मॉडिफाइड दोज barley, wheat and other grasses into the edible crops that we see today. So here you can see the evolution of modern bread wheat. You can see the Triticum cersei, Triticum spaltoides, Triticum suchi, there's Triticum tredidum, and Triticum timofeevi. So all of these are shown here, and in the parentheses you can see their chromosomal number. And you can see that how these different grasses we were making hybrids together and how they evolved to the today's crops that we see. This is the reconstruction is tentative, but it represents the probable course of crossing among the wild wheat species that led to the early domesticated forms of genus Triticum, and the subsequent crossing of domesticated wheats with the wild species and chromosome doubling that led to the bread wheat. So the bread wheat that we see today, that is evolved from these earlier grasses which were resembling the wheat. So here you can see the areas where different animals and plants were probably first domesticated. You can see the Levant region. There you can see the wheat and other barley that was domesticated here. And there are different crops in different parts of the world. For example, maize you can see in the North America, and you can see the camels in the Arab region of today, Yemen region, and a lot of other animals that we will be discussing in the domestication of the animals in the next session. So here there are the four main centers in which the agriculture systems develop independently of one another. So the human being has evolved, and it had the brain and capacity and the circumstances to develop the agriculture system. So वो ऐसे हालात में थे और ऐसी ज़हनी काबिलियत थी उनकी जब वो अपनी फसलें उगा सकते थे. They can develop their agriculture system. So here you can see on the right side the Far East Center, which is modern day China and Korea, and there is Near East Center, which is the Arab Levant region that we have discussed, and then there is Andean Center, which is today modern world Brazil, and then there is Mesoamerican Center, which is modern day Mexico. So all of these regions were at that time were responsible for the development of the agriculture systems. And in those agriculture systems, the crops were domesticated, and the modern crops that we see today were originally domesticated here.